Good morning, friends. Hang on, let me do one quick thing. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Vicky. How are you, friends? Glad to see you today. Hey, John, good morning. Karen, hello. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I am late today. Hey, Donna, good morning to you. But I had all kinds of technical issues on this end. I had to drop back and punt onto the phone. So here we are. Hi, Linda. Good morning. I hope you're getting ready for the gala this weekend. Looking forward to that. Good morning, Sharon. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. Hi, Sharon. Great to see you. Yvette, good morning. Yes. All right, friends, good morning. It is the 29th day on this Tuesday of November. We are almost into December. We are in the first week of Advent here at not quite 11:11. So my apologies on the delay today, but we are, for whatever reason, my camera decided not to work, so we had to drop back and punt. But here we are, and it is a good day to be together. I'm glad that you're with us here. This morning I want to talk about movies because I love movies. I'm actually, I was a kid who grew up in Maine. I was 17 years old before I spent the night outside of the state of Maine. If that gives you a little bit of a sense of what my upbringing was like, it was. I can remember when I first came to Boston and to Newton to go to seminary. Even though I'd lived in Portland and a few other places, like on really, there's actually an art form or a skill in walking on a busy sidewalk. I never knew that. And actually it was a thing I remember actually having to learn how to do, is to walk on a busy sidewalk where people are coming at you and, pick the right side and da-da-da. Like you'd think it would be, but by the time you get into your 20s, that stuff has to become a learned skill. It's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, I tell you all that to just tell you this. I loved movies growing up because movies were a way of seeing a world that I didn't know existed. It was a way of bringing me outside of myself. It was really, I think, in many ways, the beginning maybe of Call, because there was this way in which there's nothing more powerful than story. That I often say, the one thing all sacred scripture has in common in this world is that they're all a story. They all have the element of story to them. Every piece of sacred scripture. Now, they might have some rules in there. They might have some ways of being in there. They might have some directions in there. But they all begin someplace, and then stuff happens, and then it ends someplace. They are a story. And that movies are in many ways one of the great storytelling vehicles of our day. So there's a couple of movies I want to talk about today. And I'll end with kind of why I want to talk about them, but and what I think is significant. The first is just a few days ago that the movie Casablanca, Humphrey Bogart, all of that, what Claude Rains, what I think is, in fact, probably the best movie ever made, or at least in the top 10 of great movies ever created. And the reason it is because I think it's a perfect movie. That there's not an ounce of wasted space within it. There's not that everything that should have been put on the cutting room floor was there, everything that was included, and that there are people, and I, myself included, that have watched it dozens and dozens of times and still take away something new. And this is true of this is true of all story. It's true of every story of our life, actually. Not only the stories out there that we tell ourselves, not only just Star Wars and stuff like that, but our own stories. Is that when we find ourselves re-engaging them, there's actually things, and particularly when we re-engage them in different points of our life, they have new things to tell us and new offerings to. And I bring up Casablanca because it was the 80th anniversary just a couple of days ago of Casablanca being a movie in this world. But I think one of the perfect films that to tell us about the this all of the elements of life and conflict. This element of war and the element of struggle and conflict between the great powers, the element of personal conflict, Rick running from his demons of his past, the conflict of love and the conflict of what we hold up and what we hold dear and what we let go of. I want to encourage you to go back and watch it because I think at its heart, it is a movie. It is a great movie about sacrifice. That everyone in that movie, even the bad guys, are in the business of sacrificing for that which they believe in. And I think and it's a powerful tale that way. The other movie I want to recommend to you in this season is a movie called Devotion. It's in the theaters now. It's a movie about a guy by the name of Thomas Hudner, who is a Fall River native, and another man by the name of Jesse Brown. Tom Hudner and Jesse Brown were pilots during the Korean War, and they would become friends, not easily. They would be people who came from different worlds, though would share the same world in their world of being pilots in the Navy and flying in Korea. And they would be men who gave great sacrifice to not just to their nation, but to each other. I had the privilege, I spoke of Tom Hudner before, I had the privilege of probably close to last fall, whenever that was, the opportunity to dedicate the Visitors Center downtown, down by the battleship here in town, as the Thomas Hudner Visitors Center at Heritage Park, as he won the Medal of Honor with his exploits as a pilot in the Korean War. And I haven't seen the film, but it all bodes to be a great film. Tom Hudner would go on to do many great things. He was a guy of privilege, growing up in Fall River's own, and yet the very thing that he would win the Medal of Honor for is to try and save the life of his dear friend, a black man from the South. It's an incredible story. It's an incredible gift to be able to be a handshake or two away from men such as these. And to see it depicted, it will be a privilege. And so I hope you go see that as well. Because here's the thing, even though these are two wildly different films that I'm talking about, Casablanca, this fictional tale of Rick's American Cafe in the north of Africa, and this real life tale of a man who risks everything to save his friend. They come down to what I think is perhaps Jesus' greatest teaching. It's certainly what Jesus tells us is his greatest teaching, which is this, from the 15th chapter of John. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that they lay down their life for their friends. No greater love has this than to lay down their life for their friends. The story of Elsa and Rick is the story of laying down a great love, laying down their lives, their lived days. It's not just about what you die for, because what you die for actually is a lot easier. Dying is a pretty quick thing generally, particularly in conflict or some other way, but it's far more critical about what we might live for. And that the great story of Rick and Elsa, star-crossed lovers as they are, to go forward and with broken hearts to seek to fight what they saw as the evil in the world, to lay down their lives. And so too of Tom Hudner. And in fact, if you start to think about the great stories of your day, of the movies that you really love, the movies that endure over time, not that are just our great tellings, they are stories that come back to Jesus' teaching again and again and again, told in an infinite number of ways, told with an infinite number of possibilities of how they might play themselves out. But again and again, it is this great commandment that seems to be captured on the silver screen, that seems to be compelling to the human to come and be and participate in and watch and have a little popcorn and enjoy the stories that are of the great commandment, that we love one another as Jesus has loved us, and that in that there is greater love has no one than this, that we lay down our lives for our friends. Friends, my hope is that you'll watch some of these stories over these days. That, in fact, this is, the very Christmas story that God might come into the world and lay down his life for us. That to be able to reconnect us and relink us and to overcome death and to be the one who brings us into relationship with all that is holy and good and beautiful and true once again. This is Jesus' story in a little manger in Bethlehem. This is our story lived out again and again and again. And that the beauty and the wonder and the joy is the living of our days, not just the sacrifice of our lives, but the living of our days to love one another as God loved us and to lay down our lives for our friends. All right, friends, that is my hope for you today. I pray that maybe you get a chance to go to the movies in this busy season. You get a chance to enjoy yourself and to be a part of the great telling of the greatest story ever told. This story of God's great commandment. The story of Rick and Elsa laying down that which is beautiful and powerful for the overcoming of evil in the world. The laying down of Tom Hudner's sacrifice for the opportunity to try and love his brother, Jesse Brown. Friends, I hope you get to watch one of these stories so that it might encourage your story of laying down your life for your friends. All right, my friends, peace and grace to you all, and we'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11.